Hey guys, it's Richard with your Monday Spot on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we are discussing sexual assault allegations, the whole Harvey Weinstein mess, and how it affects the pagan community. Please take this as your trigger warning if this is something that triggers you. If this is not something that you are comfortable discussing and whatnot, take this as the warning that it is. So, just a little bit before I go into that, so if you're going to try to click off and whatnot, you have a little bit of seconds here. I do apologize for the quality of the video. I still haven't found my little SD card, and once I do, then I'll be back to making regular videos in the regular format and whatnot. So I'm currently doing this on my iPad, and I think the quality is kind of a little bit worse. So anyway, getting into the actual video, for those who still remain. This comes from JennyVamp5, and I'm going to skip the praise for the channel. Thank you for that. If you want to see the discussion or the topic question in its entirety, it's always down below, so go ahead and check that out. And let's see, where does that start? I was wondering, in light of the Harvey Weinstein mess and all of the other sexual harassment and sexism coming out of Hollywood and around the world, if you guys could discuss how this could or does affect the pagan community. Do you think it's something that needs to be addressed and engaged with within our community? Addressing sexual assault, sexual harassment, rape allegations, stuff like that. Any time that you have something like that, it definitely needs to be talked about. I think bringing a light to the fact that there is this this type of actions, these types of actions going on out there, I think that needs to be discussed, and people need to know that, you know, if this has happened to others, then, and it has happened to you, that you are not alone. The whole Me Too movement is incredibly empowering, and I feel for people who have posted the Me Too's and all that. I really feel for people who have had that happen to them, and I can't say how much I am there to support you, and if you need any type of help in the future as far as any support that I can give, I am definitely there for you. So if you are part of the Me Too crowd, and I use that term loosely, crowd, you have my support. And I'm sorry that you went through something like that. So this is a topic, if you can't tell, that I'm a little uncomfortable, especially as a gay man, talking about sexual assault or sexual harassment, especially more towards women. I've never been sexually harassed or sexually assaulted, and I count that as a privilege. I count my blessings on that one, I really do. I have been discriminated against, and I'm not going to get into that stuff, but, you know, I really feel for those out there who have been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed and whatnot. So I'm there for you as a supporter or a support system. If you need somebody to talk to, unload on, whatever, I'm there. And it's a little uncomfortable for me to talk about this topic because I am a gay white male. So anyway, let's go on into the next question. I think this is a topic that needs to be discussed. So I'm willing to go through this uncomfortableness of talking about sexuality and sexual assault and whatnot in order to have this topic of discussion. So, if so, how would you suggest we go about doing that? I think, you know, videos or blogging, the whole Me Too movement, knowing that there are other people out there that this has happened to, is a huge part of opening that aspect of discussion. I think that's a huge part of the entire, I don't want to say coping strategy, but I'm failing to come up with another word. My brain has been kind of scatterbrained today, so I do apologize for that. But I think the whole talking about it first off and knowing that you're not alone is a huge part, or at very least is a huge stepping stone into further conversation. Finding a support system and whatnot, I think that's, of course, another good avenue to go. Okay, moving on from that, does it affect our community differently than it does in other instances? This, I'm going to say no. I think that this is more of an issue that kind of goes across multiple religions. I don't think it's necessarily just within the pagan community. I don't think it's necessarily just within the Christian community. I think it affects across the board all the communities out there, all religions, aspects, all gender and sexual orientations. I think it spans all of those. I think it's an issue that people deal with no matter what. So I think this is something that really needs to come forward as a discussion, and I'm actually glad that we're doing this discussion no matter how difficult it is to talk about. This is similar to the topic of suicide and suicide awareness and prevention, that it's a difficult topic, and I don't want to say that they are one and the same. Don't misunderstand me on that one. But I think it's one of those topics that's very difficult to discuss, but absolutely needs to be discussed. I don't think it's affecting one culture more than another. I think it makes a lot of men, or genetically men, or people who identify as men, I think it makes us look a hell of a lot worse, because that's where a lot of the allegations are being looked up, or geared towards, is probably the best way to say that. A lot of them are being made by women or people who identify as female towards men or who identify as men. So, I hope that's being understood the way that I'm trying to say this. So, I think it makes men in general look a hell of a lot worse, and I take offense to that because I don't think I'm one of the bad guys, and if I ever have said something or done something in a way that is even misconstrued as intrusive upon another person, I really hope those people will tell me, because that is not what I intend. I have a hard time hitting on people, even like if I go to a bar, like, coming on to them and saying, hey, can I buy you a drink? I have a hard time saying that. So I'm very shy, very hard. It's very hard for me to interact in that way. Plus I'm a big introvert. So, hey, it's hard for me to interact with somebody in any way that is, that if I don't know you, that, yeah. Anyway, I think you guys know where I'm going on this, instead of me just stammering along trying to find words. So, yeah, I think that's all of the questions on there. I think it's a topic that is kind of uncomfortable for me, like really uncomfortable for me to address. So, I'm sorry if I didn't really give it the full gumption, the full effect that I would hope to have on it. It's a difficult topic for me to discuss because it's one that I have not seen a lot of. It's not one that I've witnessed a lot of, and anytime that I do witness somebody, either degrading women in general, or a sexual orientation or a race or something like that, that's usually the time that I start speaking up, because, yeah, that action just is not called for. A lot of people that I work with, they make comments like that, like off the cuff comments, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you need to shut up. So, and I'm at the point there, I'm like, I'm just going to tell you how I feel. So, Yeah. They have also included links, or a link, to a blog post article. I do suggest reading that. I read it. The only comment that I had on that blog post article is that, yeah, not all men are like this. A lot of men are, that I've seen in general day-to-day activities. But there are a lot of good guys out there, and I use that term loosely. There's a lot of good men, or there's a lot of good people out there. So you can't just say a blanket statement of all men are like this. So that's the only problem that I had really with this article, is that it's kind of male bashing, and you know what? A lot of guys deserve to be bashed in a verbal sense, because they have done disgusting things and deserve that. However, not all men are like that, and I do want to make that clear. I don't think I've ever been the creepy guy problem, and if I have, I do desperately apologize if I've ever come across like that, because that's never my intention. And I do want to say that Cara has mentioned in one of her videos, it's on her personal channel, and I have a cat right here, that she doesn't like whenever younger people call people of an older generation, like honey or sweetie or something like that. You know, those affectionate terms, which I understand. And I will say that a lot of times I do end up doing that, whether purposely or, you know, accidentally saying hun or something like that. And I try to curtail that away from, and that's just me being a nice person, and I don't mean any offense to that. So, yeah, I have done that before, and I've been called out by Cara, and, you know, Cara, if you're watching this, yes, you called me out without me being directly called out on it. But, yeah, I never realized that that was such an offensive term towards people, and I use it kind of like an endearing comment, like, and I'm just going to put my defense out there. A lot of times I do that whenever I'm at, like, the flea market or something like that, and I have a regular customer that I've dealt with time and time again. We're on really good terms, and I say, hey, hon, how can I help you? And something like that. And it's really affectionate. It's not meant to be sexual. It's not meant to be degrading in any way. It's meant to be friendly and, you know, helpful towards a friend. So I've been called out by Cara on that, and I don't mean any disrespect by it or anything like that. So if I've ever done anything such as that people take offense to, please understand that I do not mean offense by that. Tell me that you're uncomfortable, and I'll apologize as need be, because that is something that I don't want to do. I don't want to offend people. So anyway, I think that's about it. They go on to say about a local Druid Grove that's revising guidelines, which, if that is an issue within a group, which I have not been part of a majority of group settings, only one. So, yeah, I don't really know the ins and outs of group work as far as a physical group. So that's something that I'm glad it's being addressed. And, yeah. Go ahead and read that article below. I think that's all that I have. Again, a very uncomfortable topic. Sorry if I went all over the place on this. But, yeah, that's all that I have for this week. Until next week, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.